All right, so we're going to clicker train Stephen now to touch the, what's that one? The red disc. So what we're doing is just teaching him targeting in the beginning, and you remember from your positive reinforcement prac that we're using a conditioned reinforcer, which is in this instance is the clicker, and it doesn't have to be a clicker. It could be a whistle, it could be anything, and you'll remember that comes from Pavlov's dogs. Remember that Ivan Pavlov was that Russian scientist who did experiments on dogs, and he discovered that his assistant was stuffing up his experimental results because he was bringing the meat for the dogs to eat at night, and the trolley had a squeaky wheel. And Pavlov was checking out on the dog's digestion, and he discovered that the dogs were salivating when they heard the squeaky wheel of the trolley. So what Pavlov did was he rang a bell, and then he gave the dogs the meat. And what he discovered was that eventually he could use just the bell to get the salivation of the dogs. And so when we're talking about clicker training, we have a unconditioned stimulus. Now the unconditioned stimulus in the case of the dogs was the food, and it produced an unconditioned response, which in this instance was the salivating. And what Pavlov did was he used a conditioned stimulus, which in that instance was the bell, before that, and eventually the bell could produce the salivating, in which case that then became known as the conditioned stimulus. So Stephen has learnt very quickly that in order to get the vending machine to give out the biscuits, he has to touch his nose to that red disc. He wants to know if that vending machine might have better biscuits, or maybe require less effort for him to get the biscuits. Very good. Okay. I think that's pretty clear. I think he's pretty happy to target the red thing now. So Sophie's removing it when he isn't paying attention. So obviously with clicker training, and with any training at all, you remember that we don't use punishment, and there are lots of reasons for that. One of the most important for us as horse trainers is that punishing an animal reduces its desire to trial novel responses, because it's not sure what's going to get punished or what isn't going to get punished. And of course it also reduces the predictability and the controllability of the environment. And as we know, that's actually a really important part of making an animal's welfare as good as possible. So now we're going to introduce the other coloured disc, but we don't want Stephen to touch that. So we are going to present them together and only reinforce him when he goes first to the red disc. Okay. And Sophie's going to change hands because obviously he'll very quickly learn to only go to the one side. No reward for that behaviour. No, so he thinks it's something to do with the right hand. That's okay. Learning is all about making mistakes. And the consequences for those mistakes are not great. But the consequences for making the correct choice are quite good. So again, has the idea now. It's quite a good discrimination task for horses because, of course, because they have dichromatic vision, it's not a lot of difference between the red and the green. Since you forgot for a moment there what made the bickies come. But he's got it now, maybe. I think we'll see if we can get 2 more good trials, and then we might say that he has a clear understanding of the task. One more, Stephen, and you're home and hosed. Good boy.